are 230. The nays are 197. Present is 1. Article 1 is adopted. The question is on adoption of Article 2.
Trump is absolutely panicking right now as House Democrats just rammed through a surprise impeachment vote on the evening of January 3rd, 2026, exploiting the chaos from Judge Sullivan's injunction and the leaked war crimes documents to force the most significant impeachment action since his previous trials. H.R. Resolution 353 has now been advanced to the floor with a tabling vote of 237-140, clearing the path for full floor debate on 7 articles of impeachment that have been supercharged with the Venezuela airstrikes as new charges of abuse of power and tyranny. And here's what makes this absolutely devastating for Trump. 10 Republicans flipped and voted with Democrats to advance the impeachment. 10 members of his own party voted to move forward with removing him from office. The Republican coalition is shattering in real time, and Trump is watching it happen from his Mar-a-Lago bunker while sweating and raging on Truth Social about deep state war on America. This isn't a hoax. This is a constitutional process responding to documented war crimes and constitutional violations. The leaked memos showing 115 extrajudicial boat killings are in the congressional record now. The civilian deaths in Caracas are documented. Judge Sullivan's ruling that the strikes were unconstitutional is on the books. This impeachment is built on evidence, not politics. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built National Brief Network to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. Alright, let's get into what actually happened and why this is the beginning of the end for Trump's presidency. The scene at Mar-a-Lago as the vote happened was reportedly chaotic and disturbing. Trump appeared on Fox News looking haunted, visibly sweating, bags under his eyes, voice cracking with desperation. This is not the confident, strong man Trump tries to project. This is a man watching his presidency collapse in real time and having a psychological breakdown over it. Trump vowed martial law during the Fox appearance, suggesting he might use military force to stay in power if Congress tries to remove him. Let that sink in. The President of the United States is openly threatening martial law to prevent his constitutional removal from office. This is authoritarian rhetoric that should terrify every American regardless of party. He's signaling that he will not go peacefully if Congress votes to remove him. Threatening to use the military against the American people to maintain his grip on power. This is exactly what the founders feared when they designed impeachment as a mechanism to remove dangerous presidents before they could destroy the republic. Share this video with everyone you know because Representative Al Green, who has been pushing for impeachment for years, forced the floor action after the Caracas strikes provided the final justification for removal. Green argued that Trump's unconstitutional war on Venezuela, combined with the documented war crimes from the boat strikes, made immediate impeachment action a constitutional necessity. Green said Congress has a duty to remove a president who has committed crimes against humanity and who threatens martial law when faced with accountability. Green's motion to table objections to H.R. Resolution 353 passed 237-140, with 23 Republicans breaking with their party on the procedural vote and 10 Republicans actively voting to advance the impeachment. This mirrors the December 11, 2025 vote, where Democrats first showed they had the numbers to move impeachment forward. But now the situation is even more dire for Trump because the evidence is even more damning, and the Republican defections are growing. Speaker Mike Johnson tried desperately to hold his caucus together but failed spectacularly. Johnson warned that impeachment would doom Republicans in the midterms, but 23 Republicans voted against his position anyway. These Republicans understand that defending Trump after the war crimes leaks is political suicide in their districts. They're choosing their own survival over loyalty to a president who authorized the massacre of civilians and the execution of survivors floating in the water. Johnson's inability to hold his caucus together shows how badly Trump has damaged the Republican Party. The coalition he built is fragmenting because his behavior has become indefensible even to members of his own party. The impeachment vote isn't just about removing Trump, it's about Republicans trying to save themselves from being dragged down by his catastrophic presidency. Make sure you're subscribed to National Brief Network because let me walk you through exactly what H.R. Resolution 353 contains and why this impeachment is different from his previous impeachments. The The original resolution was introduced on April 28, 2025, and contains 7 articles of impeachment covering a range of alleged offenses, including obstruction of justice, abuse of power, contempt of Congress, and tyranny. But the resolution has been revived and supercharged on January 3, 2026, with new evidence and a new article specifically addressing the Venezuela situation. Article 8 now charges Trump with unconstitutional war on Venezuela based on the Caracas strikes that violated Article 1 of the Constitution and the War Powers Resolution, the leaked documents showing 115 extrajudicial killings in the boat strikes, and the execution of survivors that constitutes war crimes under international law. The resolution now has over 210 co-sponsors, including 10 Republican flippers who have decided they cannot defend his conduct. The 7 original articles of impeachment cover the full range of Trump's misconduct during his second term. Article 1 covers obstruction of justice related to the Epstein files cover-up, where Attorney General Bondi deleted files and FBI Director Patel fabricated classified seals to hide damaging information. Article 2 covers abuse of power related to Trump's interference with the fraud case and his attempts to avoid accountability for the $464 million judgment. Article 3 covers contempt of Congress for his refusal to comply with subpoenas and oversight requests. Article 4 covers threats and intimidation against judges, prosecutors, and witnesses, including Trump's attacks on Judge Engoron and his calls to impeach the courts. Article 5 covers violations of the Emoluments Clause and corruption. Article 6 covers abuse of the pardon power. Article 7 covers general tyranny and undermining of democratic institutions. And now Article 8 covers the unconstitutional war on Venezuela. Together, these 8 articles present a comprehensive case that he has violated his oath of office and must be removed. The evidence supporting Article 8 is overwhelming. The leaked OLC memo authorized lethal force against suspected boats without warrants, leading to 115 deaths across 35 strikes. The operational reports document the execution of survivors floating in the water after their boats were destroyed. The September 2, 2025 strike specifically shows 2 survivors being killed after they posed no threat. Judge Sullivan's ruling found that the Caracas strikes violated Article 1 and the War Powers Resolution because there was no imminent threat justifying executive war-making without congressional authorization. The UN report characterized the boat strikes as suspicion-based killings that constitute atrocities comparable to torture. Governor Newsom's demand for ICC prosecution adds political weight to the war crimes allegations. All of this evidence is now part of the congressional record supporting impeachment. The procedural vote of 237-140 to table objections means that full-floor debate on the impeachment articles can now proceed. This is not the final impeachment vote. That comes after debate when the full House votes on each article separately, but the tabling vote shows that Democrats have the numbers to impeach Trump on the floor. With 23 Republicans breaking on procedure and 10 actively supporting advancement, the final vote could potentially include significant Republican support for at least some of the articles. The war crimes evidence in particular is causing Republicans to reconsider their positions. It's one thing to defend Trump against charges of obstruction or abuse of power that can be characterized as political disputes. It's another thing entirely to defend a president who authorized the execution of people floating helplessly in the water. The moral weight of the war crimes allegations is breaking through partisan loyalty in ways that previous impeachment efforts did not. Make sure you stay subscribed, because Speaker Johnson's warning about midterm doom actually cut both ways and may have encouraged some Republicans to vote for impeachment. Johnson argued that impeaching Trump would hurt Republicans in 2026. But many Republicans in swing districts understand that defending Trump after the war crimes leaks will hurt them even more. They're making a calculated decision that being associated with impeachment is less politically damaging than being associated with a president who committed atrocities. The 23 Republicans who broke with Johnson on procedure and the 10 who actively voted to advance impeachment are trying to create distance between themselves and Trump before the midterms. They want to be able to tell voters that they stood up against his worst excesses, even if they supported him on other issues. Johnson's inability to make the midterm doom argument stick shows how badly Trump has damaged the party. Trump's threat of martial law during his Fox News appearance represents a dangerous escalation that is itself grounds for concern about his fitness for office. A president who threatens to use military force against Congress to prevent his constitutional removal is a president who poses a threat to democracy itself. The 25th Amendment exists precisely for situations where a president demonstrates inability or unwillingness to discharge his duties in accordance with the Constitution. His martial law threat suggests he views himself as above constitutional constraints and will use force to maintain power if necessary. This rhetoric aligns with authoritarian leaders around the world who refuse to accept democratic accountability. He's telling the American people that he will not go peacefully if Congress exercises its constitutional power to remove him. That statement alone justifies immediate action to remove him before he can follow through on his threats. The parallels to Trump's previous impeachments are striking, but this one is fundamentally different because of the war crimes evidence. His first impeachment in 2019 was over the Ukraine phone call where he pressured a foreign leader to investigate his political opponent. That was a serious abuse of power, but it was fundamentally a political dispute that Republicans could dismiss as partisan overreach. His second impeachment in 2021 was over January 6th and the incitement of insurrection. That was an attack on democracy itself. But Republicans could argue that his speech was protected and that he didn't directly order violence. This third impeachment is built on documented war crimes that cannot be dismissed as political disagreement. 115 people are dead. Survivors were executed in the water. The documents prove it. The UN has characterized it as atrocities. A federal judge has ruled the strikes unconstitutional. There is no political spin that makes executing helpless survivors acceptable. The 10 Republican flippers who voted to advance impeachment represent a significant crack in Trump's support that could grow as the process continues. These aren't never-Trump Republicans who opposed him from the start. These are members who have generally supported his agenda, but cannot defend war crimes. As floor debate proceeds and more evidence is presented, additional Republicans may conclude that they cannot vote against impeachment without destroying their own political futures. The magic number for conviction in the Senate is 17 Republican votes, assuming all Democrats vote to convict. Getting 17 Republicans to vote for removal seemed impossible before the Venezuela revelations. Now with the war crimes evidence and Trump's martial law threats, 17 may actually be achievable. Republican senators are watching his behavior and calculating their own political survival. Some of them represent states where Trump is deeply unpopular and where defending him could cost them their seats. The market reaction to the impeachment vote has been volatile as investors try to figure out what comes next. The initial reaction was fear about political instability and the possibility of Trump following through on martial law threats. But some analysts are suggesting that his removal might actually be positive for markets because it would end the chaos and uncertainty that his erratic behavior has created. The Venezuela strikes crashed markets 8% in a single day. His meltdowns and flight from Washington created additional uncertainty. The war crimes leaks added to the chaos. If he's removed and replaced by a more stable leader, markets might actually rally on the hope of normalized governance. This creates a perverse dynamic where Wall Street might actually welcome impeachment as a path to stability. The connection between the impeachment vote and all the other crises Trump is facing creates an overwhelming convergence of pressure. Judge Sullivan has enjoined his military operations. Governor Newsom has formed a blue state coalition defying federal authority. Over 120 lawmakers had already called for resignation before the impeachment vote. His assets are being seized in New York. FBI Director Patel is facing arrest threats for the Epstein cover-up. Trump was physically thrown out of a courtroom for contempt. And now the House has advanced impeachment with Republican support. Every institutional check on presidential power is activating simultaneously. He's facing pressure from the courts, the states, Congress, public opinion, and the markets all at the same time. There is no relief anywhere. There is no ally who can save him. Completely isolated and surrounded by forces seeking his removal. The House can proceed to floor debate and a final impeachment vote within days. If the House votes to impeach, which the procedural vote strongly suggests they will, the articles go to the Senate for trial. The Senate Majority Leader would set the trial schedule. The trial itself could take weeks as evidence is presented and witnesses are called. But given the urgency of the situation, Trump threatening martial law and having already been enjoined from military operations, there may be pressure to conduct an expedited trial. The question is whether 17 Republican senators will vote to convict. That seemed impossible weeks ago. But after the war crimes leaks and Trump's martial law threats, it's at least conceivable. Some Republican senators have already expressed concern about his behavior. If those concerns translate into conviction votes, he could actually be removed from office. The 14th Amendment implications add another dimension to the impeachment. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment bars anyone who has engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding federal office. If Trump is convicted on articles related to his defiance of constitutional order, including his threats of martial law and his unauthorized war-making, he could potentially be barred from ever holding office again under the 14th Amendment. This would prevent him from running for president in 2028 or any future election. Democrats are likely to argue that his conduct constitutes the kind of rebellion against constitutional authority that triggers the 14th Amendment bar. Even if he's not convicted in the Senate, the House impeachment itself creates a record that could be used in future 14th Amendment proceedings. Now let me break down what this impeachment vote actually means and what the implications are going to be moving forward. Number one is that the House has now officially advanced impeachment proceedings against Trump with bipartisan support. The 237-140 vote with 23 Republican defections and 10 Republicans actively voting to advance shows that this is not purely partisan. Republicans are abandoning Trump because the evidence is too damning to defend. The war crimes documentation, the martial law threats, the constitutional violations. All of it has become too much for some Republicans to stomach. This is the first time a Trump impeachment has had meaningful Republican support from the beginning. Number two is what Trump's martial law threat means for the country and for the urgency of removal. A president who threatens to use military force to prevent his constitutional removal is a president who poses an existential threat to democracy. He's essentially saying he will stage a coup if Congress tries to remove him. This rhetoric alone justifies emergency action to remove him before he can follow through. The 25th Amendment, which allows the vice president and cabinet to remove a president who is unable to discharge his duties, becomes more relevant when the president is threatening to overthrow constitutional order. Every day he remains in office after threatening martial law is a day the republic is at risk. Number three is the timeline and what happens next procedurally. The House can now proceed to floor debate on the 8 articles of impeachment. A final floor vote could happen within days, given the urgency of the situation. If the House votes to impeach, which seems certain given the procedural vote margin, the articles go to the Senate for trial. The Senate trial could take weeks, but there's pressure for an expedited process given his threats. The key question is whether 17 Republican senators will vote to convict. The war crimes evidence and martial law threats have made conviction more possible than at any point in his previous impeachments. Share this video with everyone you know, because number 4 is the political implications for the 2026 midterms and beyond. Trump's approval has cratered to 35% amid the Venezuela chaos and war crimes revelations. Republicans in swing districts are fleeing from Trump as fast as possible. The impeachment vote gives them cover to distance themselves. They can say they held him accountable for genuine misconduct rather than defending the indefensible. Democrats are positioned for a potential landslide in the midterms if they can frame themselves as the party that stopped a war criminal president. The political dynamics have shifted dramatically in favor of Democrats over the course of a single day. Number 5 is what happens if Trump is actually removed from office. If the Senate convicts him on any of the impeachment articles, he is immediately removed from office and the vice president becomes president. He could also be barred from future office under the 14th Amendment if the conviction relates to rebellion against constitutional authority. A post-Trump Republican Party would have to figure out its identity and direction without its dominant figure. Markets might rally on stability hopes. International relations would reset. The country would face a period of transition and uncertainty, but would also be freed from the chaos he has created. The bigger picture here is that we're watching constitutional democracy work the way it's supposed to work when a president goes rogue. The courts blocked his unconstitutional military action. The states formed coalitions to resist federal overreach. The House advanced impeachment with bipartisan support. Every institution designed to check presidential power is doing its job. This is the system the founders designed, being stress-tested by the most dangerous president in American history. And so far, the system is holding. He's being constrained and potentially removed through constitutional processes rather than through violence or chaos. Trump's threat of martial law shows that he understands the walls are closing in and that he may not be able to escape through normal political means. A president who is confident in his position wouldn't threaten military force against Congress. He's threatening martial law because he knows he's losing and because he's unwilling to accept democratic accountability. This is the behavior of a cornered authoritarian, not a legitimate democratic leader. The question now is whether he will actually attempt to follow through on his threats or whether the institutional pressure will force him to accept removal. The war crimes evidence that triggered this impeachment will follow Trump regardless of the outcome, even if the Senate fails to convict, even if he somehow survives this crisis and serves out his term. He will be remembered as a president who authorized the massacre of 115 civilians and the execution of survivors in the water. The leaked documents are now part of history. The UN characterization of atrocities is on the record. Judge Sullivan's ruling is published. No amount of screaming about fake news can make this evidence disappear. His legacy is sealed as a war criminal regardless of what happens with impeachment. The next few days and weeks are going to be the most consequential period in American political history since Watergate or possibly since the Civil War. A president is facing impeachment for war crimes while threatening martial law to stay in power. The House has advanced articles with bipartisan support. The Senate may actually have the votes to convict if Republican defections continue. And Trump is hiding at Mar-a-Lago having meltdowns and making threats instead of governing. This is what the collapse of a criminal presidency looks like in real time. What comes next will determine the future of American democracy. The House will proceed to floor debate and a final impeachment vote. The evidence will be presented publicly. More documents may leak. More Republicans may flip as the pressure intensifies. The Senate will receive the articles and conduct a trial. 17 Republican senators will have to decide whether to remove a president who has committed war crimes and threatened martial law. And Trump will continue raging from Mar-a-Lago, growing more desperate and more dangerous as his options narrow. We are living through the most significant test of American democracy since the founding, and the outcome will determine whether constitutional government survives or whether a president can commit war crimes and threaten martial law without consequences. The House has spoken. The vote was 237 to 140, with 10 Republicans actively supporting impeachment. The evidence is overwhelming. The martial law threats are on the record. The war crimes are documented. And Trump is panicking because he knows exactly where this is heading. His presidency is collapsing. His party is abandoning him. And the constitutional process he tried to destroy is now being used to remove him from power. This story continues. Stay tuned.